Hello, pocket knife community, knife lovers, knife enthusiasts, interested viewers. Folder here. A few weeks back, today is June 28th, 2023. A few weeks back, I did a video, head to head video. Spyderco Canis versus the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. And I did it versus in the category of best self-defense knives. These knives are self-defense. They're the two knives by Spyderco that are designed from the ground up for self-defense. And in that head-to-head, the Canis won. Okay, the Canis won. And part of the reason why the Canis won, and one of the main features that I feel a defense knife or a military knife would have to have, something that is not just a tool, because knives are tools first and foremost. Before being a weapon, a knife is a tool. It can be used as a weapon, and some knives are used as weapons, but I view knives first and foremost as a tool. The original knife was a rock, a broken rock that had a sharp edge and was used as a tool. And most people today use knives every day. If you eat every day, you use a knife. They use a knife for eating, for all types of EDC tasks. Knives are an extremely useful tool for humans, right? So, but these knives were designed for combat, for fighting. Um, and I know Spyderco is not gonna like me saying this, but I don't believe these are the only two that are designed for that. I think sometimes the knife community gets a bad stigma, and knife manufacturers don't want their knives identified as weapons, because then now they're targeted by certain groups that don't like weapons. So I think that kind of happens with knives, you know, ooh, that big scary knife type of thing. Um, so, but having said that, I don't know if it's by design or just by virtue of being. My opinion is the Manix 2 and the Paramilitary 2, hence the name Paramilitary, were also designed with self-defense in mind. Um, the Manix 2 being an Eric Glesser design, and the PM2 being a Sal and Eric design, they do have very distinct similarities, believe it or not. As different as they are, they have very distinct similarities. Um, so let me just get right into this because I don't really want this video to be incredibly long. We came out with the Canis eclipsing the Yojimbo 2. Now we add these two knives into the mix. The Spyderco Paramilitary 2 Ultra Ambi, specifically the Ultra Ambi version by Blades We Love. It matters. And the Spyderco Manix 2. This happens to be in Smooth G10. One of the downsides, real quick, of the compression lock is it is right-hand biased. And when I say right-hand bias, I'm talking about all operations with one hand. One-hand operations with everything. The compression lock, you can open it up very easily with your right hand, and you can, and the way the pinch lock is designed, it goes to the left side of the scales. It's very easy with your right hand to pinch it and close it. One-hand operation, extremely easy, right? When you switch that to your left hand, very easy. Closing it is not as easy because it's on the left side of the scale. So you gotta sort of pinch it. You gotta lay your hand out flat a little bit and pinch it, and then it closes. Now listen, if you're gonna use two hands, okay, you hold it You pinch it and you close it. It's no big deal using two hands. But we're talking about for a self-defense application, and maybe even a military application, a law enforcement application. You want one-handed operation. You don't want to have to. You might have, a firearm in your other hand. You might have a flashlight in your other hand. You might have something else in your other hand when you pull out your knife and retract it and be able to put it away. Okay, you need to have fluent one-hand operation. That's part of it. The Manix 2 has that. So the Manix 2 is very easily open and closed one-hand operation. Okay, either hand with no problem. The PM2 would not really be in this category. So that already puts the Canis at a disadvantage, because as amazing as the Canis is, that left hand fluid operation is compromised. So the Canis beat the Yojimbo because of the ergos. Ergos are the most important attribute, I feel, in a fighting and or combat or law enforcement, security, any type of knife used for that type of field. Ergos, for me, in my opinion, is the most important function. It has to be comfortable in your hand, and it has to be made of a material that won't get slippery if there's blood on your hands or grease or oil or something, some slippery substance. It has to be. So titanium and stainless steel knives don't do well in this category. Okay, it has to be something that does well with those types of fluids on them. It can't slip out of your hand. So so now, like I said, this actually is a bombshell, because here we got the two baddest knives made by Spyderco for the military, law enforcement, security industry for combat, being actually knocked out of the box, technically, because they have compression locks. Well, and this is my categories, remember that. Because they have compression locks. And I'm not faulting the compression lock. I love the compression lock. It's just that it's not completely fluid two-hand operation. Each, single hand left and right hand operation. The Ambi fixes that. The Ambi allows you to easily deploy the knife with your left hand and retract it with your left hand just by hitting that button. And of course, right-handed, you can do it very easily, very quick. So now, it's ironic, these two knives that weren't designed for this have eclipsed the other two that were designed for it, in my eyes. And now you have this runoff. And one is only done because of a modification made by a outside vendor. Now, as amazing as that goes, I'm going to just cut to the chase on this. I'm not going to beat a dead horse and make this video extremely long. But what I'm going to say is this. The ergos of these knives are extremely important when you're talking about self-defense. In my opinion, the Saber grip is the best grip for self-defense. And both of these knives have excellent jimping, and they have excellent up ramps that hide your thumb very well behind the deployment hole for in case you're doing some type of piercing task and the material rides up the blade to protect your thumb, or you hit something that you didn't plan on hitting, and now you hit an immovable object and your fingers tend to slide forward. You want something where your hand isn't going to slide forward on the blade. So the Manix 2 is very good at that because of the way the deployment hole is and the way the jimping is and on the back spine of the blade. Well, if you think the Manix 2 is amazing for that, look at the PM2 for that. Because the Manix 2 and the Canis are very similar when you look at the jimping. When you look at that jimping on that ramp, how your thumb sits right behind the spine of the blade on that jimping are very similar. on these two knives. But when you add the PM2 to the mix, it has a dramatic upturn in its deployment hole, which even puts your thumb even further behind. So now, if you happen to pierce some material and that material is being cut by your blade and it's rotting up the blade, your thumb is very, very protected by the geometry of the blade. Of course, your hands are very protected on the bottom because the downturn of the handle gives excellent finger protection. So when you're talking about ergos for the security industry, the military industry, the law enforcement industry, and for personal protection, I think the PM2 ergos is the best knife made. Period. And I mean, I know that's a leap. That's a leap. You know, that's really going out on a limb saying that, because I'm just talking about Spyderco's. I'm talking about, in my opinion, now, have I handled every knife out there in this category? No, I haven't. But I know what I like. I know what works in certain applications in the real world. I know that when you're in an altercation, that your subconscious takes over and things happen that you don't even realize are happening in real time, because you're in something. And it's good to have certain foundations down so you don't have to worry about them. And the PM2 actually really, really does that. So the addition of the Ambi has made this knife, literally, in my opinion, the best Spyderco in this category. And I would really challenge anyone to come up with something, some other folding knife that has the ergos, the dead stop ergos of the PM2. And also with the single-handed operation, the ability to operate completely one-handed, open and close, the way this knife does. You know, I think it's incredible. You know, thus the name Spyderco Paramilitary too. So like I said, I really think that was what their original goal was, but you know, they want to sell knives. And honestly, let's be real about it. EDC, of course, this knife is amazing for EDC. It's amazing for just the cutting geometry, using this as a tool to do a whole plethora of cutting tasks. Plethora. The last time I cut out some foam for one of my luggage case, not luggage cases, one of my equipment cases, it had some pre-cut outs, but had some stuff that wasn't pre-cut out. I used the PM2. Perfect for that. You're cutting, you know, you're cutting in a straight line. It's just very good for those types of tasks. It's a full flat grind, so there's nothing to prohibit the slicing ability of it. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna actually rate these. You know, I'm laughing because it's amazing to me how, you know, when you really think about these knives and really what they're for and everything, how this transpired. But I'm gonna put the PM2 as number one. Literally the number one best. The PM2 Ultra Ambi, I must say. The PM2 without the Ultra Ambi does not have the fluid two-hand operation. Okay, without that, I think the Manix 2 wins. Without that, you know, the ergos are still better with the PM2, but the complete ability of two-handed of one-handed operation, like flawless, seamless one-handed operation, is compromised by the compression lock. But as they stand with the Ultra Ambi from Blades We Love, that would be number one. The Manix 2 would be number two. The Canis would be number three. And the Yojimbo would be number four. I would honestly rate them in that order, left to right. Um, as far as and I'm sorry guys, I'm so sorry, dogging this knife. I would actually not even put this knife in this, because for me, this knife does not work for me. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people. That doesn't mean it's not amazing for other people. But just for me, it does not work. And I don't want to get into my line of work, but yeah. At any rate, it doesn't work for me. This knife is excellent, not ideal. I have these knives already set up left hand carry for a reason. Um, but right, so this is amazing. If this had a ambi button, an ultra ambi button, it would probably be like this. Right? It would probably be like this, or maybe even first. It would be a much harder, um, decision if it had complete single-handed, either hand fluid operation. But the compression lock does not. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.